What's up, everyone? Welcome to this episode of Becoming the 1% Podcast. My guest today is Quentin McCain. He is a best-selling author. He is the master coach of neuro-linguistic programming. He is a hypnotherapist and leads leadership seminars all over the state. Enjoy. Hey, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you can finally make it happen. I know we had to rearrange it a couple times, so
It's all good.
appreciate you making the drive. You're here in Arizona, though, yeah?
I am.
Nice.
Yep, right in Phoenix.
What brought you here?
I'm actually from here. I know that that's like,
Whoa.
I'm like a unicorn here.
That's
right?
weird.
But
I mean, I'm from
Phoenix.
here. He's not. He's from
Oh,
Alaska.
you're from here too?
Yeah, I'm local.
Oh, wow.
I'm born and raised. Yeah.
You don't find that many in the same room, right?
No, never. Everybody's from somewhere else. So you're born
Exactly.
and raised Arizona. Which
Born and
part of Arizona?
Central Phoenix.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Very cool. And now you're in Scottsdale.
I'm in Biltmore area, so I didn't move that far from
Sick.
Central. Yeah.
How'd you get hooked up with John?
How did I get hooked up with John? I actually don't remember. I think I met John through another friend.
Okay.
I think it was through somebody mutual. I know it's been about 5 years or so, but I don't remember who I actually met him through.
Well,
I'll have to ask him now.
Yeah, right? Either way, shout out to John Malott. Thanks for making this happen, buddy.
Exactly.
So at the beginning of each episode, I like to kind of hand the mic over to the guest. I want to hear a little bit about what you're doing. Obviously, you're implementing a very, very cool strategic leadership, and you're doing this with a lot of big name companies. I want to hear about where that started and exactly what it does. So please start coming at me with it, bro.
Yeah, definitely. So my expertise is in something called neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, and also timeline therapy. So I work a lot with the subconscious mind. So starting at the root where habits begin, right, and where they continue on, really. And how I started working with companies is just getting out there and doing it.
Yeah.
I got introduced to personal development in about 2009. Somebody let me borrow a random CD from Jim Rohn, and I was listening to it, and literally it resonated with me right away, and I was like, wow, okay, like I could do this for people, right? Just help them shift that mindset, and it became like a positive snowball effect, really. Just started going to seminars, reading books, getting trainings, getting coaches, all of the above, and that's kind of where it led me to speaking, coaching, and
you said a neuro-linguistic hypnotherapist.
So
am I saying that right?
No, but that sounds good. That sounds good. I mean, I could be that, right? I might have to coin that, right? With your permission.
Of course, yeah.
No, so neuro-linguistic programming. So
Okay.
neuro, the brain, linguistic is your language or communication, how you talk to yourself, right? Or how you talk to other people. Language holds a lot of people's problems together. And also the programming is habits.
Yeah.
So that's really the breakdown of what that methodology is, neuro-linguistic programming. And the easiest way to explain it is it goes off the 5 senses. So as humans, we take in information through our 5 senses, right? Sight, smell, touch, taste, hear. And because we do that, we have to express our experience through those 5 senses. So if something happens to us, trauma, whatever happens, we have to express it through one of those senses. Like we see the pictures in our head, we hear a sound, we might it might trigger us, or whatever the case may be. We might smell smoke, right? If that's the case.
Sure.
But because that's how the brain works, we can use it to work for us instead of against us.
Yeah.
So we can guide you through kind of like a guided meditation and tell you to change the image in your mind.
Yeah.
Usually, for example, if somebody is experiencing something traumatic, for example, they're usually seeing themselves in the image. It's bright, it's live, but so we might say, well, turn it black and white, because the brain can do that.
Interesting.
We
turn
might say,
turn the image
black and white. Instead of being in the image, step out of it like you're looking at a picture. Now push that picture on the back of the wall. So you take the intensity out of it, and that can be just that one technique can shift years and years of trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find that the implementation of this is more often in establishing healthy habits or in reversing negative habits or pathways that have been formed due to trauma?
I would say both.
Both. Do they go simultaneously together, or is it which one do you think happens more?
Well, I would say people most likely would come to me if they've already got some things they want to get rid of,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's where it would be the reversing of it, right? Because, for example, I've had people that had, depression, anxiety for 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
and after 3 sessions, they're like, wow, I had the biggest breakthrough in my anxiety that I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
So a big part of it, at least where you see the biggest impact and people notice it a lot, is with the reversing, because they've been living with it for 1, 2, 5, 10 years, right?
Wow. You mentioned that there are oftentimes triggers that are coming in through one of the five senses. It reminds me, I have a family friend. He mentioned that he has PTSD and he gets it whenever he smells gasoline, because he spent time overseas in Iraq and that kind of thing. When he smells that, he immediately has to, and it's sort of a catch-22, because like the gas station's like a real problem for him. Sure. Because if I get it really bad, I'll get a panic attack and I can't drive my car. So if I'm at the gas station filling up, he's like, I usually have to put the gas in and I have to step away from my car and go inside and wait, 10 minutes. Then I'll come back out and then I can actually pull it out and hopefully get in my car before something like that ever happens. So it's very interesting, the mind's power sometimes over the body. Is this a way to kind of curve that effect? Because obviously that's not a way to live life. We don't want to have a weird smell sends me into a frenzy. I mean,
right.
Right. This is a way to sort of curve that response.
Exactly. And you can actually replace those responses with positive triggers, or what we call anchors in NLP. Yeah,
that's very, very interesting. How exactly does this implement on a business setting? I mean, how do you do a lot of one-on-one, I assume? Mm-hmm. Is this almost always sort of one? Do you do corporate events? I mean, do you talk
Definitely.
to big businesses and how does that work?
Yeah, we just scale it. We have a program called Peak Performance, actually, that's a 2-day seminar pretty much. And in that seminar, we literally take the whole audience and we run them through timeline therapy exercises, which clears people of negative emotions like, harbored anger, sadness, fear, guilt, that they could have had since childhood. We clear people out of limiting beliefs, and we do it all in one room or on Zoom, right?
You sure?
And
yeah.
We can do some of those same things that we could do one-on-one.
So expand on that a bit. So if I'm in a timeline therapy session and I want to overcome some of the responses that I've had and maybe habits that I've formed over the last 5 to 10 years, how do you start? What do you do when you're? I assume if you're doing a big group, you're not individually asking each person what their past trauma is. How do you address a big group of people and do something like that?
Right. I'm glad you said that about addressing specific traumas, because actually, even in one-on-one, the way this type of coaching works is a lot of times I don't have to have content, which people love. Sometimes you go to therapy and it's like, oh man, I got to talk about this, right?
Mm-hmm,
I got to go through what happened with my family and all these different things. But with this, a lot of times we don't need content. I tell clients, you can tell me if you want, but you don't have to. Because all you have to do for this is be able to follow directions. Now, okay. I know that sounds easy, but it's hard for some people. All you have to do is be able to follow directions. So everybody has a timeline. I'll just tell you like the basics of timeline. Everybody has a timeline. So if I was to ask you directionally, right, you're using your imagination, where your future is, where would you point? Okay. And where would you say your past is?
Behind me.
All right. Excellent. So not everyone's is like that, but that is a very common timeline. Mine is the same. Mine is in front. I'm here in the present, and the past is behind me. Some people see their timeline from left to right, like they can see it all in front of them. Some people, it has some, different diagonal things. It doesn't matter. However your mind creates your timeline is fine. But as long as you can see in your mind's eye, okay, my future's there, my past is there, you can do timeline.
Okay.
Because we basically have you close your eyes and you go through what we call a visualization process, right? And we have you float up above your timeline, and it's super simple. It's super simple, but the way that your mind works, it kind of blows out the corners of certain problems, because your mind's like, hold on, are we here or are we there? That's a, I guess, simplified way of explaining it.
Yeah, so my future's in front of me, my past is behind me. You want me to float above my timeline, then what? I mean, what's the next step? If I'm in a seminar right now and you're telling me, all right, so you can see your timeline, you have the ability to visualize it. How do I? First off, what's the purpose of floating above it? Why even do that?
So your mind doesn't know the difference between what's really happening and what's vividly imagined. Your subconscious mind. So in your mind, when you're doing these certain steps, and I have you, for example, float past the event, right? Which you didn't have to tell me what it was. Just float past the event. You're in the past, and now you're looking towards the event, towards the future, for example.
The event meaning a traumatic event or any event?
Anger, whatever traumatic event.
Okay.
Yeah. And just the positions that we place you in this timeline, it kind of tricks your brain a little bit. So we have you do these steps, and it tricks your brain into thinking, well, hold on, I'm already past this event. Now I've gone down into the event, and I'm not feeling the sting of it anymore. And a part of it is most of the times we avoid pain and problems and things like this. And this is a way where we're going directly to the problem, but looking at it from a different perspective.
So I'm somebody who, I mean, as an example, if I'm in your timeline and I'm saying in my head, maybe I specified with you and I told you, okay, both my parents died in a car accident when I was 20. I mean, that's my event. I can start with my past because obviously I remember what it was like before they were dead. And I remember the event very vividly because I was in the backseat of the car. That's about as traumatic an event as one can ever imagine.
Sounds like an origin story.
It does sound like an origin story. So I get to the event. I'm reliving it, which I understand from clinical psychology, revisiting the past and going into traumatic events to sort of, untether the emotional response to them is very helpful in getting past them. I get to it. I relive it. Now what do I do?
So, keep in mind, this is a whole hour-long process that I'm trying to simplify. But
is it an hour? That was also going to be a question I was going to ask. Is it approximately?
It could be. 30 minutes to an hour.
Oh, one second. Sorry about that. Little pause. 30 minutes to an hour. That's where we're at. These timeline events are approximately an hour. Did I hear that right? Half hour to an hour, somewhere in there?
I give it up to an hour, but honestly, it depends on how quickly the person clears the emotion.
Okay.
So I've had it in as short as 5 minutes.
Wow.
10 minutes, but we'll give it an hour because the main thing that makes the emotions dissipate, the negative emotions, is you're separating yourself from the emotion. So basically, when you float up, you're looking through your own eyes when you float up above your timeline.
Your eyes are closed during this process, I assume. Something
typically
along those lines. Yes.
Right. Your eyes are closed. You're floating up above the timeline, and you're before the event, right? And then we say well before any of the chain of events that led to that event, right? And then they have in your mind, you have this event positioned somewhere. You're above and you're
pull the mic a little closer to you.
You're above and you're before it.
Yeah.
You're above and you're before it, right? So if the event's there, that's typically where the emotions are. Typically where the emotions are in the event.
Yeah.
And you're kind of separating yourself from it. And in your mind, that kind of blows out the event because typically we're holding it like it's in us, right?
Yeah.
But you separating yourself from the event and going through this process continues to separate yourself from the event.
It's something in your past that happened to you. It's not something that is you or something that you have to carry with you.
Exactly.
Yeah. I have a newfound respect for this type of a process. The process of letting go is something that I think I want to say Freud, but somebody originally said this is one of the largest problems that all of mankind never learns to master is the ability to just simply let go.
I believe it.
And there's a large group of religious information to back this up in places like the Bible and places like the Quran. I mean, but what do you see this as practically most helpful for someone? I mean, for like boots on the ground, for somebody, why first off, why would somebody hire you to come to a company and do this? I mean, this is obviously a luxury for the employees, for the business partnerships, whoever's involved with this. Why would someone do this?
Right. Well, the thing that comes to me is everything is habits, right? As you know, with with a gym, right?
Right.
Everything is habits, and people don't understand that you can have emotional habits. You can emotionally be mad all the time. You can emotionally be sad all the time, right? And people don't realize that. You know, that's like a new thought for a lot of us. It was a new thought for me when I first heard that. I was like, damn, like really? And it's so true. And think about really, of course, there's some other things that could contribute, but for the most part, depression is someone being emotionally, is someone having a habit of being emotionally, you know, mad or sad
Sure.
on a consistent basis, right? It's consistently being sad that becomes a habit. That's what a lot of depression is. You've done it over and over and over. And as we know, right, with habits, they're either formed by repetition or a strong emotional event. So if you're over and over and over being sad,
Yeah.
that creates depression. If you're over and over and over being worried, that creates anxiety.
Yeah. And
Right.
I feel like it even extrapolates the situation more, because if you're somebody who's depressed or sad or anxious all the time, well, then eventually the light's going to go on and you're going to be like, man, I am depressed or anxious or sad all the time. Why am I like this? Maybe I should be medicated. And then you try that. And then sometimes that doesn't help either. And then that makes you emotionally sad and anxious.
Cycle.
It's a totally, and getting out of that, it's so strange that the key is often in the mind. Hormozy said something. He was talking about they were actually using the example that people who podcast for more than 51 episodes are in the top 1% of all the podcasts in Spotify. Like 99% of all podcasters stop before 50. And
It became a habit.
And it became a habit. And I think Hormozy's point was, like 999 times out of 10, the stress and the pain and the worry and everything that we do, it's all inside of our mind.
It is.
We futuristically fail in our mind. I like that. We futuristically fail. We're like, well, I haven't failed yet, but I know I absolutely cannot get to that point. I've already failed in my mind, but it's still in your mind. You haven't failed yet.
Exactly.
You just think you have.
Exactly. One of my favorite quotes, and it's as old as time. It's like Confucius or something. Is once you make until you make the subconscious conscious, it'll rule your life, and you'll call it fate.
I like that.
I love that quote.
Yeah.
Once you make the subconscious conscious, until you make the subconscious conscious, it'll rule your life and you'll call it fate. So that's what people are walking around doing. They're just like, oh no, man, I got bad luck. Right.
Right.
No,
right.
I got bad luck. Oh, I'm clumsy. Right. Or I'm just dumb. I just don't got it. Right. And they'll call it fate. That's just who I am.
When fate is such a damning perspective on, everyday choices. And look, there may be some all divine being, controlling the way things go, but if you are somebody who wakes up and you believe you are fated to feel a certain way or look a certain way or act a certain way, most likely, like you said, that's going to rule your life. You are going to act that way because it's already, you predestined it. You already ordained it.
You are on point. So guess what? So here's the thing. There's two sides of this. We could do that for what we want too. We're making it all up anyways.
Yeah.
Do it for what you want.
I love that.
We're making it all up anyways.
We seriously are. It's actually kind of funny. Maybe it's been your experience as well. The more people I meet, and especially the more famous people you meet, the more you realize how much of a facade it all really is. You're like, man, we're making this up as we go, including them. Like the guy who claims to be like famous and killing and all this. He made you think he was famous, so he's famous. Yep. Like that's it. Yep. There's really not a magic pill. There is not a red or blue pill situation to just get things.
Exactly. One of my mentors, who's actually pretty famous, pretty known in the speaker world, he told me never meet your idols.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Really? He's like, never meet your idols. They're never gonna fill the shoes of who you think they are.
Yeah.
And it's so true.
Yeah. Well, and especially I think with social media, with the way things are portrayed in a very, very small 2-dimensional 90-second window, we get to showcase, and I include myself in this statement, we get to showcase a very small, very highlighted, very filtered portrayal of what we want the world to see of us.
Most definitely.
And it gets, I think it gets a little bit more revealed if you podcast, if you do longer format stuff where you can really talk, really get into some stuff and challenge someone or have someone on that challenges you. You can see the type of person you're dealing with over 90 minutes. But it's, we make it up as we go. It's almost, I think, in a way, it's encouraging, because if someone is thinking like, yeah, there's just no way, I just can't do what they're doing. It's one of the biggest. It's funny. We do seminars, as I mentioned, and one of the complaints we got from the last time we did this, which was probably a year ago, one of the complaints we got from one of the instructors who brought in a big class worth of people was that the complaint was literally, hey, this was really great information and stuff. The class felt really discouraged at the end of it, and I was like, wait,
you're like,
really?
Hold on, what? That wasn't my mission.
You're kidding me. That's a I didn't. What did I do? He said, well, I didn't really know how to say this or how to bring it up to you, because it's not exactly the right message to be sending. They felt discouraged by seeing where you had gotten, because to them, they didn't think it was attainable to get. And again, I was put off from the beginning when he said they were discouraged, but even more so when he said that's the reason why. Right. I told him, like, hey man, look, straight up, I honestly don't know how to fix that problem. That's a situation where I can't explain or give them a way to do. I mean, that's right. Tough. That's sort of on them, and that's sort of what he landed on too. He's like, that's what I said.
And comparison's a killer. I tell people, don't compare your level 2 to somebody's level 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And understand also that one of the only differences between your level 2 and a level 10 is time. I mean, somebody who just got their certification in whatever is not going to get to a point where a 10-year business is at consistently running with like 8 or 9 people on the team. It's not feasible. You can get there eventually, but don't look at yourself and be discouraged and like bummed out that you're not there already.
Right. They haven't failed enough.
Yeah, exactly. They haven't failed enough. I like that. That's a really good way. You got to fail forward until you stop failing.
That's it.
Yeah. So, all right. So you've got this implementation. You've got this business setting. Where do you see this actually going? I mean, how do you exactly scale this from a business standpoint? Because you have a partner too, right? What's his name?
Yeah, Jerry Watkins.
Jerry Watkins. That's right. Yeah. So how do you two, what's his role in this with you?
Right. So we're both certified in all the same things. We've done trainings together. I've known Jerry for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And, he has a very good business sense. So Jerry owned hair salons.
Oh, cool.
You've heard of Tony and Guy?
Yeah.
It's like one of the really big hair salons.
Good for him. That's awesome.
So he had franchises. He owned six Tony and Guy hair salons. Mm-hmm. He's the one who put the hair salons in all the malls in Arizona.
Sure.
And they were all doing well, all 7-figure salons. And so he has that business sense, right? He knows about franchising. He knows about structure. He knows about systems. So I would say that's really one of his, his PowerPoints, right? Mm-hmm. Along with the coaching sense. I've been a coach this whole business career. So my thing is coaching through and through. And I've coached on pretty high levels. I coached for Brendan Burchard's company, mm-hmm. Which Brendan Burchard, for those that don't know, is in the top 1% of my industry, right? He's like Tony Robbins and all that. He coached Oprah.
I think he actually goes with Tony sometimes. Yeah,
I've seen him. Yeah. He does. So I was one of his high performance coaches. He only had about 30 at the time, mm-hmm. Coaching in like 60 countries. So I had the opportunity to coach CEOs, executives, athletes, celebrities all over the world.
It's awesome that you found a business partner that has a specific background in the business world. That's very, very smart of you.
Oh, yeah.
It's no secret that oftentimes, and what you're doing is, it's by no means motivational speaking, but any type of life coach, motivational speaker, anything like that, when it comes to implementation, oftentimes a complaint from the community is, okay, I want to make sure this person has knowledge on exactly what it is I'm trying to do and isn't just pitching me on a course.
Right.
So having both sides, having the knowledge and the certifications and the coaching experience that you do, combined with the business setting and everything he did with Tony and Guy and all the franchise, that's a powerful unit. That's a good duo.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I'm so thankful to have him because, like a lot of us who are really good at something, who create an expertise in something like me in coaching and speaking, we don't have the business sense, right? We're just like, I just want to help people. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how to create a business out of it, right? So everything I've learned about business was through study, through trial and error, and through my business partner, for sure.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah. So what exactly would you say is the connection between this sort of thing and addiction? I wanted to make sure that I brought that up specifically because, we've talked about past trauma, but oftentimes it seems like trauma and addiction are sort of intertwined and interconnected. But let's say somebody's an alcoholic. Does this type of coaching have an implementation for their life? If it's not one singular event that necessarily led to this, but they have rather a reoccurring drug problem, a reoccurring issue in their life, how exactly would you answer them if they emailed you and said, hey, I've got this. I just lost my business. I'm a raging alcoholic. I need you to help coach me. What exactly do you say to that person?
Definitely. Yeah. So the short answer is yes, it can help them. And the reason why I say that, well, for one, I've done it. The other reason is because it all goes back to the basics. It's habits, right? It's beliefs, identity, right? So a lot of times when somebody, is an alcoholic or they're doing drugs, they're identifying themselves as that, right? They're identifying themselves as a smoker, as a drug user, as an alcoholic. And, I'm all for doing things in conjunction. You can do 12-step program, whatever, in conjunction. That's fine, right? Because part of it is getting away from whatever that addictive thing is, right?
Yeah, that trait,
which you can be addicted to anything, really.
Yeah.
But part of it is getting away from that. And then we're working with you, the person. And my job is to help you identify as a healthy, strong, wealthy, whatever type of person and get away from the identity of being the user, the smoker, right? It's all in the mindset. It can be done.
Yeah. Yeah. Every choice we make definitely starts in our mind. I've read quite a bit on addiction, and it's oftentimes described as the fog, where somebody who's addicted to drugs will be like, I don't even remember going out and buying the drugs. I just remember waking up the next day, or I remember when I got high.
Yep.
Like, I don't even remember the choice that led to the choice that led to the drugs.
Exactly. That's habit.
That's habit. Yeah.
And that's really, what it is as well. It's self-hypnosis. And so people get freaked out by the word hypnosis, or that I do hypnotherapy sometimes, but that's mainly through miseducation, through TV and movies, right? It doesn't mean you're going to be clucking like a chicken, for example, right? If you wanted to, you would.
Watching
right?
a dial spin or something.
But hypnosis is just basically bypassing that frontal lobe, the chatter brain, and making you more susceptible to suggestion. That's what hypnosis is. And what you just said is self-hypnosis. Have you ever been driving somewhere and you don't even remember the turns you made or how you got there? You just arrived. You're like, oh, dang, I'm here already.
Oh, yeah.
That's self-hypnosis. You went into your subconscious brain, your subconscious mind, and it took over. Your subconscious took over. And your subconscious, like, I've done this enough times, because remember, habit is through an a strong emotional response event or repetition. You've probably taken that route 100 times, and your subconscious is like, you just hang out. I know where we're going. Right? And it's the same thing with picking up that drug or whatever. They've done it so many times that it can become automatic.
Gotcha. So then the way to bypass that self-hypnosis is then to turn on the frontal lobe, to turn on the decision maker or explain that a bit more.
So the conscious brain, like how we're talking now, that's what we call the goal setter. Right? That's like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this thing, right? But the subconscious is the goal getter. So that's where all the habits, beliefs, and all those things that really create who you are live, right? So you have to go back to the subconscious to change those. So through positive repetition, right? is one of the most common ways that we're going to switch those habits.
In your opinion, are psychedelics a tool to tap into the subconscious?
They could be. So I've been doing some research on that actually, and it's kind of the same concept. You're bypassing that. Oh, hold on, wait, what is this? Well, what's going on here? You're bypassing that, and you're going into that stage where you're more susceptible for suggestion or change, right? But here's the thing: you got to make sure whatever you do to get to that level, hypnosis, NLP, psychedelics, whatever, what are the suggestions you're putting in there after you're in that zone?
Because that's where things can get dicey.
Exactly.
And anyone who has experienced any sort of either hypnotherapy or psychedelics or anything where you are, as you put it, open to suggestion, knows you're in a very fragile state when you're exposed like that. If you get with, I mean, if you're around somebody the very first time you try mushrooms and they turn on an episode of Black Mirrors, well, maybe you're going to have a little bit of an adverse reaction to your very first time. And by contrast, if you're around an actual clinician and you get into a hypnotic state and you do this, or even because I've read up, I know there, Huberman just did a podcast. He was talking about the combination of hypnotherapy, psychedelics, specifically psilocybin, and therapy. So basically, you're in a clinical setting. You are your eyes are closed. You ingest the psilocybin, and then you have a clinician who is licensed and prepared, knowing what it is you're trying to conquer, overcome, whether you're an addict, whether you're dealing with trauma. They are prepared as a sober-minded professional to guide you through that.
Right.
That's, again, where I always make that clarification when I tell people, yeah, I like psychedelics. I make sure they understand. I'm like, look, but that doesn't mean that they are for you.
Right.
They're not for everybody. And if you are somebody with past traumas and you've got maybe reoccurring negative habits and stuff, I honestly wouldn't touch them. And if you did, do them in that setting I just described. Find a place that is geared up to do this, because they are actually popping up a bit more, I think. Yeah? Are they actually, let me look that up. I'm curious. If there is, what would you even Google? You would like clinical psilocybin clinics.
Yeah, I wonder.
Clinical psilocybin clinic, Arizona.
I'm interested to see what pops up.
I'm curious. I'm curious.
It's just a picture of a forest.
Let's see. It looks like there's a I read this. There's a new bill in Arizona that actually supports the yeah. That's it. Literally this. This is what they're describing. It's a legalized psychedelic medical research legislation. And I honestly, I don't know. I know it's just proposed. I don't know if it's passed, but it would essentially allow what we just described to unfold.
Right.
It'd be very fascinating. I mean, if it was legal, would you actually try it? Would you do your exact setting with perhaps the implementation of psilocybin with somebody?
Why not? Yeah. Especially understanding how the brain works.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you broke it down perfectly. It's like you're in a setting and it's about what you're putting in that subconscious mind, right? If you're in a back alley somewhere and, you know, you guys just watch like Black Mirror or whatever, it's like, I don't know if I want that in my subconscious mind, right?
No.
And actually, I do know. I don't want it in my subconscious mind.
Yeah. Well, and that is honestly, that's the big harsh critic. I've heard, especially from the religious community, against psilocybin, against mushrooms, or against psychedelics really of any kind, is that you are opening yourself up to influence from either positive or negative forces, whether that be from an actual human or even from something spiritual, if you are somebody who believes in that sort of thing, as I myself am. I mean, you are opening yourself up a door to something that could potentially harm you.
Yep, I believe it too.
Yeah. So it's not something that everybody should do, but it would be fascinating to see the meeting of that with what it is you're actually implementing with that setting.
Yeah, and my thing is, I think it all goes back to intention, right? You know, you can use your powers for good, right? And you can use them for otherwise.
Sure.
You know, like, because in my realm, there's a whole other realm of people that use hypno NLP, but they use it for other things, right? For example, some people use it for manipulating people, for example.
Really?
Oh,
like in what setting?
So there's like a whole realm of people that use like you can see books. They'll be like manipulation and techniques and how to get whatever you want from anybody by manipulating whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, and they're using mindset techniques in order to do other things, right?
Salesmen, that sort of thing,
Things like that.
Get
right?
them to buy whatever it is you're selling. Understand? I mean,
Which I'm okay with sales.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
But
it is
depends
a form
on
of
your intention and how you're going about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's an interesting and sort of a fine line, ethically speaking, question with regards specifically to sales. I mean, some of the best salesmen in history we know have done and said things that were definitely morally gray, and let's be generous and say gray. Sometimes they're just flat and outright wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, for all the glorification Jordan Belfort got from all those movies and everything he did, I mean, he took advantage of a lot of senior citizens. A lot of people lost their money. A lot of people lost their homes. I mean, what he did, he is a form of master manipulation and mind control.
Yeah. People know human psychology and how the brain works and what triggers you say, no, I do want to buy it, and when, so.
Right. And part of me thinks that if you're somebody who gets a phone call from a stranger and they offer you a chance to invest in something and you are dim enough to actually give them your information and your credit card and your bank statements, maybe there's a part of you that deserves to lose that money.
Well, you'll learn your lesson for sure after that, right?
But
hopefully.
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, it's not to say that's right. I mean, it's still wrong. I mean, I think it's wrong to use the knowledge that you may have, and if someone if someone with your expertise went into a different path, and you didn't want to help people, you wanted to sell things.
Right.
You wanted to, that you're like, I want to rep this company as best I can. I'm going to use everything that I know how to do to get this product sold and get the stock up. I don't care what happens.
Right.
This is what I want. I want this bottom line to go up. That would be a very, very different person.
Exactly.
Very different set of goals.
Yeah, with those people, it's like common sense isn't always common practice, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. Where would people go if they wanted to get involved in this? I mean, if they wanted to be a part of this, if they wanted to get with you, I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, so social media at Coach Q McCain.
Yeah.
The website, theleadersedge.online.
Let me pull it up real quick just so we show it on the screen. Social media, there it is.
Yep.
Go ahead.
At
Quentin
Coach Q McCain.
Yep, there it is. Perfect. And then the website is The Leader's Edge.
theleadersedge.online. Not to be mistaken with .com.
Yeah, right. I did it a couple times. Perfect. Awesome.
And we actually train people in these techniques as well. So we're certified to train people. Some coaches come in to get trained who are like life coaches, but they want to up their skills. We certify people in hypnotherapy, neurolinguistic programming, and timeline therapy. And you don't have to be a coach. It could be anybody who wants to use these skills for their own life or to help others.
Yeah, the power of, I mean, you had mentioned earlier the definition of neurolinguistics and all that stuff. The power of words is not to be understated as well. I mean, that's why they call it spelling. Yeah. When you speak and what you say has real implementation in whatever setting you're in. I mean, it will impact the way the room feels. It will impact the way you feel, what you say. Yeah. Beyond what you speak, I think. Or excuse me, beyond what you think.
Exactly.
If you speak it, it's a lot more powerful than just thinking it.
Yeah, and I love that you said that. Words are the web that hold problems in place a lot of times. Yep.
Interesting. Like how?
So words they are powerful. They're a spell, right? They become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So when you say I am, whatever comes after that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So that's why you notice people that say I'm clumsy. They've said that 1,000 times. They're probably kind of clumsy. Yeah. Right? Somebody says I have bad luck. You probably do, because you've said that over and over and over again. Yeah. Right. So that's actually one of the ways the first ways, like if somebody tells me, well, how can I start changing my mindset? I say watch your words. Watch your words for a week, and you'll be surprised at the negative things you say about yourself and your surroundings. Just watch your words for a week. And I tell people, it's okay to switch it up. If you say like, oh, dang, I'm so dumb, you know, it's okay to say, you know what? That's not what I meant. What I really mean is I'm getting better. You know, and I don't believe in saying a lie like I'm the best in the world, right? You don't have to do that. You can say, you know what? I'm learning. I'm getting better. And just switch it. Just switch it, because these are those neural pathways. You're creating a new pathway every time that you switch it, right? It's all habits.
Here's a big one that I've noticed oftentimes. People who overuse the term "I'm sorry." People who say that, and they say it all the time. And it's a big habit that I try to break with the people that I'm around. People say like, "I'm sorry, man, sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I'm like, bro, stop saying I'm sorry. I'm telling you, it is gonna. I know that you feel that way, but it's not positive. It's actually negative. Understand that it's all good. Like whatever it is. If obviously if you drop the ball huge, then I apologize, of course. But I never say I'm sorry. I always say I apologize, because it's a bigger word. It's a harder word to say, and you actually usually mean it. Just saying that over and over though, that's one that I had to work on myself for a bit. Like I'm like, I need to stop saying this.
I'm sorry. I'll try. I don't say I'll try. What happens if you try to close the door?
It's probably going to stay open.
You tried to close it. No, close it. You know? So I'll try. I'm sorry. Get those out of your vocabulary. Also, watch your metaphors. You know, you say, hey, how's it going to somebody? They're like, just trying to keep my head above water. What kind of image is that creating in your mind? What kind of image is that creating in your mind? Your brain works in pictures. So what kind of image, if you're saying that all the time, just hanging on by a thread, like your brain's like, oh, dang, is that what we're doing?
And it takes you from like here to here. And immediately now I'm trying to, because anytime we have any sort of an interaction, you're trying to find commonality between the person, especially if it's not somebody that you see all the time. If it's somebody like that worse yet, that's why anytime anybody asks you, how are you doing in a public setting that you don't know, you're always like, I'm good. How are you? If a stranger asks you how you're doing and your answer is, man, I'm hanging on by a thread, you're going to freak that person out. Like because it's such a small, brief little interaction.
Like, oh, dang.
You just want to leave a positive. You always want to try to leave a positive impact.
Right.
But then there's also those groups of people where you see them more than once. They're acquaintances. And even then, like you said, I mean, how you say you're doing really will impact how it actually plays out.
Exactly.
It's powerful. Powerful stuff, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun.
This was great. Thanks for having me.
Of course, bro.
Thank you.
We can finally do it. It's been a long time coming. I think it's great what you guys are doing too. I know it's going to help a lot of people. And how long exactly have you done it?
I officially started my business on paper in 2015.
Oh, very cool. Nice. So you did it all through COVID, man. I bet you had some cases during COVID.
Oh yeah, all my speaking gigs got canceled during COVID.
Oh, that sucks.
But I still had coaching, you know.
Yeah.
That the coaching actually picked up during COVID, and the speaking went down. So it was.
Yeah.
It kind of balanced out.
That makes sense actually to me. That makes a lot of sense to me, because people freaking out, can't figure out anything. Their shit's all upside down, and they don't want you talking to anybody in public because they're scared everybody's gonna get killed with your face.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, man. But I'm glad it's going good for you. It's awesome what you guys are doing, and thanks for coming on. Tell me about your book.
So actually, I thought about it because you work with a lot of your family. My mom and I wrote the book together. So,
oh, cool. What's it? What is it? I mean, tell me about it.
It's called Think on These Things.
Wow.
And it we wrote it in 2016, so it's been a little bit.
Nice.
But it's basically
pull the mic a little closer, because we're still going, right? But you didn't shut it off or nothing.
No, I didn't.
Cool.
So the book was meant to be for daily motivation. So I don't get super deep into the NLP or hypno or anything in the book. Mm-hmm. It's meant for daily motivation and creating a positive habit. So it's really 1 page a day that you read, and you focus on that one message of the day. And then you write, it has a journal in it. So you write down your goals, action steps, thoughts related to that one day.
Just
so it's like
1 day that you're in.
It's like a 99-day transformation.
That's
doing
cool.
something positive every single day. So it's that habits. It goes back to habits and repetition.
I really like that. It feels like, I mean, you mentioned the past behind us, the future in front of us. We spend very little time thinking about the actual moment and the actual day that we're in. We always focus on what's going to happen tomorrow. Why didn't I do that yesterday? You're like always focused on those two areas and you never stay present. Staying present is one of the most powerful tools, I think, for anybody. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're just a human being in general, learning to stay present and focus on the exact day that you're in. I mean, that's why we live one day at a time. I think God gave us 24-hour days on purpose.
Right.
I mean, we are supposed to, I mean, you're asleep for most of that, but
right.
the rest of the time that you're open, I mean, you're awake for 18 of those hours or whatever it is. That's your window. That's we were supposed, people, I got asked the question sometimes and I really thought about it. Like, why do we sleep? Well, I mean, you can go into the physiology of what it does for your body and all that stuff, but I think we sleep. A big reason why we sleep is because it's meant to be kind of a reset for the next day.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, it would kind of be a miserable existence if we didn't require sleep.
Right. Just keep going.
If we just kept going forever, you never rested. You just like, your brain was always on. Think of the anxiety.
Oh my gosh.
Think of the misery that you would live in if your brain never shut
Thank God
off.
For sleep.
Thank God for sleep. It's like, it's such an underrated thing. And thinking of it that way will help you focus on the exact day that you're in. And look, yeah, you wake up, hit the ground running, but hit the ground running on that day. Don't be too focused on the week. Honestly, don't even think about the week. People plan out their week and all that stuff. I just try to plan out my day.
Day at a time.
One day at a time. Take it in the exact window that you're in.
Yep.
Don't focus
Focusing
too much.
Too much on the future, that creates anxiety. Focusing too much on the past, that creates depression.
I love that. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching that episode of Becoming the 1% podcast. If you like the content and you want to see more of it, hit the like and subscribe. Activate that notification bell as well. We really appreciate it. If you guys want to see more of it, we actually have the Becoming the 1% Instagram, and the podcast is available on Spotify. For our socials, we have Strict Vision Athletics on Instagram, we have it on YouTube, and we have it on TikTok.